Hi guys, it's Justine here from I Should Read That, and today I'm going to do my March wrap-up. So the month of March was a really interesting reading month for me, because while I really liked everything that I read, I feel like I didn't read a lot, which is not necessarily true because I read a large number of pages, but not necessarily a huge number of books. And I tend to average, I don't know, when I'm in like a good reading month, I feel like I average maybe 8 to 10 books a month, and I read 5 this month. And there's a number of reasons for that. One of them being the fact that Scottish husband and I have been studying like crazy for our theory driving test, which in the UK it's like the equivalent of the US written test, but it's more complicated. And we passed, which is awesome, very exciting. And also I have started up my podcast with my sister again, which is called You're Never Gonna Read This, and I can put links for that down below, but it's basically a book recommendation podcast because we have very different taste in books, and we have some amazing guest authors this season, so like definitely check that out. I also have a new job, which is kind of crazy, and you might be thinking, Justine, you just got a new job in July, and you would be right, but I'm actually leaving the company that I've been at for about 2.5 years, and I'm moving to another company. I work in academic publishing, and I'm going from a university press to a privately owned publisher, and so it's going to be a very interesting experience. I'm also changing department. I've been in marketing, and now I'm going to production, who I feel are like the unsung heroes of publishing, and it's going to be really good, but that means that I've been real busy. It's been real busy. It's been real busy. And I just haven't had the same amount of time to read as I would love, but I did read a number of really great books this month, and I'm really excited to share them with you. I feel like you've seen a lot of these in other videos from this month, but I'm going to run through them again, maybe in a little bit more depth, and link reviews where necessary. So I feel like I read this one ages ago, but it was really only at the beginning of the month when I finished it. I read Truthwitch by Susan Dennard. This is the first book in the Witchland series. It's a young adult fantasy series, and I loved this. I loved it so much, and I thought that I would go into it like kind of enjoying it. It would be like a fun adventure, and it was so good. It's much more complex. I think it's quite deceptively complex, and it's got amazing magic and has great characters, and I loved this so much. Truthwitch follows two girls, Safi and Isolde, and they are both witches. They have these very different powers, and Safi is a truth witch, as you can see from the title, meaning that she can detect truth from lies. So I'm sure you can imagine the implications of that magic in, say, politics. So she's had to hide her power for so long, and she kind of finally gets outed, and she and Isolde, her best friend, are on the run. So this book is split into multiple points of view. So you have Safi and you have Isolde, but you also have a character named Merrick, and it's just so much fun, and I feel like this had a lot of hype when it came out in 2016 or so, and I think that a lot of that has died down for me, because I feel like people don't talk about this series as much as I would have imagined they did in 2016 when I was not on BookTube or anything like that. So this was unexpectedly super fun. I would highly recommend it. I think I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. I cannot tell you how much fun I had reading this. I loved every second of this book, and I didn't necessarily love every character. I had some trouble with one of the male characters, who I eventually warmed to, but I had the best time reading this book. I can't say that enough. The next book that I read this month is one of my most highly anticipated books of the year, and I think that I liked it. I really did. But I think that maybe I got into my own head a little bit. I think I personally hyped this up for myself a little bit too much. This is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I did a full review of this book, so all of my thoughts are there. You can go ahead and check that out, but essentially this is a quite complex story about dragons and queendoms and assassins and dragon riders, and on paper it's awesome. However, I feel like the story was a little bit imbalanced. Some of the characters were amazing, and I would die for Iad and Sabran in particular. I absolutely loved. I really liked Loth. I was less fond of Niklas and Tane. I really disliked Tane as a character. So I gave this 4 out of 5 stars, which means that I really enjoyed it. I did. I just thought this would be the greatest thing that's ever been written, and I think I did that to myself. So I liked it. I really did. Is it perfect? No. You can, again, check out my thoughts down below. The next book that I read, I really loved, and I knew I would like it because I have read and really liked one of her other books. However, I totally flipped for this. I read Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid this month. This follows the story of a fictional 70s rock band and their sort of rise and fall, but it's told as a interview transcript. So it's very removed from the actual events in the 70s, and everyone's kind of reflecting back on what happened and what they think happened, because not everyone experienced the story in the same way. And I really love this. You're probably hearing a lot of hype for this book right now, and I would say that it is worthwhile to pick up. She also wrote The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which is like a major book in the booktube community, which is essentially sort of something similar but set in the golden age of Hollywood, which I absolutely love. And I liked The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I gave this 4.5 out of 5. I just thought that this is so much more polished and more balanced in terms of the characters. I really loved reading about these horrible people, because almost everyone is really terrible or really tragic or self-destructive, and I really enjoyed this one. What makes this really interesting is the fact that it feels so incredibly real. And when I read historical fiction books, I tend to Google paintings that they talk about. I tend to Google these characters, and because they tend to be real people in history, and that's not the case with this book. However, I kept reaching for my phone to see what the album cover of Aurora looked like, for example, or they talk about this famous photo of Daisy Jones in a pool fully clothed, and I was like, oh, I want to see what that photo looks like, and kept forgetting this is all fictional. But something that's really interesting that my sister actually pointed out, because she read this at the same time as me, completely unintentionally, is the fact that this has been picked up for a miniseries by HBO, and apparently they're going to produce all the songs and stuff, so I'm really excited for that. I think it's going to be an amazing show, and it's a really fun book. I would so highly recommend it. The next book that I read this month is one that I don't currently have with me because I am lending it to a friend. I was sent this book for review by Tor Teen, and I ended up really enjoying it. I don't think anything groundbreaking, but it was really fun. This is The Tesla Legacy by KK Perez. You can kind of see this here. I have to admit, I am not a fan of this cover. It doesn't speak to me, it's not my thing. And I probably wouldn't have picked this book up on my own. However, it is a book about women in science, and I absolutely love that. So I went ahead and requested a copy, and I'm really happy I read this. The Tesla Legacy follows a modern teenager named Lucy, and she lives a very kind of average life. She has a kind of shitty boyfriend who's really cute and kind of out of her league. She has, a best friend. She has very overprotective parents. She also has epilepsy. She feels like she's been living this very kind of caged, contained existence until one day, by chance, she stumbles upon the abandoned laboratory of Nikola Tesla, and everything kind of goes crazy from there. It feels a little bit X-Men in a way, in the way that she kind of develops these powers, these electrical powers, and it's really fun to see her kind of navigate these situations that she's in, and she suddenly becomes kind of an exceptional person, but she feels very average. And I really enjoyed how much she loves science. I have no head for science whatsoever. I really struggle with the really kind of technical science fiction. But this book I found really easy to follow, and I was just as interested as Lucy is in all of these sort of scientific practices and whatnot. She's always talking about how she is a scientist, so she's going to do her, her hypothesis, and she's going to do her experiments and everything, and I was so charmed by Lucy. I loved how much agency she had, and I loved how intelligent she was, and you really got that through the writing. Sometimes you're told that a character is so amazing and so intelligent, and you're kind of like, really? But that's not the case here. I ended up giving The Tesla Legacy 4 out of 5 stars. Again, I don't think it's groundbreaking. I don't think that it's going to be a, hugely memorable book for a lot of people, but it was super fun. It has a great female character. It has a really great female friendship in there, and I think that it would be kind of the perfect book for, say, your summer holiday. So the very last book that I read this month is one that I've been wanting to read for a long time, and the paperback is coming out very soon. So I ended up getting sent a copy of the paperback for review, and I am so happy that I ended up reading it, because I do really struggle with this author's writing sometimes. I need to be in the exact right mood for it. This is Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor. So I was sent a copy of this book by Hodder and Stoughton, who are the publisher in the UK, and I am so thrilled that I ended up getting this because I loved Strange the Dreamer so much. And I know that it's kind of a Marmite book, and I totally understand why, because her writing is so kind of over the top and flowery and like super like sickly sweet in some ways, particularly when she's talking about the romances. And I happen to have read Strange the Dreamer at the exact right time. It was totally perfect. I think that if I read it maybe like 2 months earlier, I probably would have hated it, but I ended up reading it at the right time. And when Muse of Nightmares came out in hardback in November, it was not the right time for me to read it. So I actually put this book aside after about 100 pages or so, and I picked it up again when I received this copy. And I powered through this book. I absolutely blasted through this book. I'm not going to talk about what this book is about because, like, everything about this is a huge spoiler for the first one. However, if you like her Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy, if you like kind of purple prose and that very sort of flowery over-the-top language, you should definitely pick up this series because it's really beautiful and it's complete, which is super satisfying because, my god, the end of Strange the Dreamer is, like, horrifying. One of the things that I really liked about this is we concentrate on my favorite character, who I won't say, but she's the main character of this book, and I just absolutely adore her. I think she's incredible and she's wonderful and she's complicated, and I'm not a huge fan of Laszlo Strange. I think he's nice, but he's just kind of like, I don't know, to me he's so good. And he's so kind and he's so over the top, like, nice, that he just doesn't appeal to me. However, I really love the characters in this book, and although he is a character, obviously, because it's still his series, I loved the way that other characters got to come to the forefront and got to shine in this. I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really loved this. I love the way that the series wraps up. I think it's beautiful and I love it, and I know it's not for everyone, but when I am in the right mood, this is like perfect. So that is it. Those are the books that I read in the month of March. I feel like this video is so much shorter than my usual wrap-ups. Usually these go on for like 20-25 minutes, and this is not going to be that long. So I'm really hoping that I can maybe read more in April. I have an ungodly number of books. You're going to see in my wrap-up, which is coming next. I have an ungodly number of books that I brought in this month. And a lot of them were sent to me or given to me by publishers, which is great, but like, I'm looking at the stack behind the camera and it's getting slightly ridiculous. So I'm really hoping to read more in the month of April because I need to do more than 5 books in a month to clear these books out. Tune in at the end of April and see how that goes, because yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. In the comments down below, let me know what you read in the month of March, if you've read any of these books, if you read anything different, or if some of these books are in your TBR. I would really love to hear from you. I post bookish content to this channel fairly frequently, so go ahead and hit subscribe, check back soon, and I will see you next time.